Hello, I'm Tim Myers. I'm going to walk you through a quick video today on creating plaster originals from clay sculpture. What you're looking at is a negative plaster mold of a clay sculpture that I created. You simply finish the sculpture and then cover it with plaster. As soon as the plaster has set up, you flip your mold over and the clay will still be inside, and you just dig the clay right out of the plaster. You can see all the pieces that I've dug out of this mold. So you actually just destroy your original sculpture, but what you end up with is this negative mold that, once it's prepped correctly, we'll pour plaster in. Once the plaster hardens, then this particular plaster mold will be knocked off the piece with a hammer and chisel. Once I dug the clay out of this mold, I took it up and sprayed it out with water, cleaned all the residual clay out, and what I'm doing right now is applying a solution of dishwater soap and water to the whole inside of the mold. I'll let that dry, and then I'll soak this in water. All I did was filled this one-piece mold full of water. We'll just let it soak for about a half an hour, which will really soak that soap mold release solution into the surface. And it'll help us when we knock the mold off the final piece. I'm using this regular plaster of Paris. You want to be careful of this stuff. I don't think it's good for you to breathe. Make sure you read the label. I use this little respirator when I'm mixing it up. My other piece has soaked now for about 15-20 minutes, and we'll pull the water out of this shortly. When I mix a plaster, I just use a little container. Put the plaster in, use cold water so the plaster stays in a pliable state longer. And you just mix it up with your hand. You don't want to use sticks or spoons or anything. Just put your hand right in there and mix the plaster right up. I've drained the water out of this mold now. I'm just going to take regular old olive oil, and we're going to coat the whole inside of this mold with a layer of olive oil. Okay, there we have it. I've mixed up the plaster and I poured it in that negative mold that will break off later. So we'll let this set up for 24 hours now, and then we'll break the mold off from it. So I'll have to make a final repair on these legs. But that's the way my process stands right now with creating a plaster sculpture from clay.